Ladies and gentlemen, we're with Eden Black, and we've known each other for
about 2 years.
Two, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little more now, because 2024 just flew by.
It did.
I know.
Have
Crazy.
I been acting for longer than 2 years? Maybe 2.5 years by now.
What was your first acting experience?
My first acting experience was in a class. It was before I got any gigs. It was in the Meisner class at the Atlanta Hollywood Studios, and
Okay.
I was an auditor in the Meisner class, and usually auditors didn't do anything, but we had a little extra time, so I did an improv. And I just played this like angsty teenager, and I was so nervous. But I was so nervous that my brain shut off. And I just allowed myself to disappear into just like nothingness, which allowed me to create a character in like the snap of a finger. And it was so cool. And I did this improv and everybody loved it. And I joined the class like the next week. But that was my first acting experience ever.
That's wild. I feel like improv is, especially for a new actor, it's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking too much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew I was gonna overthink, so I shut my brain off. I created this wall with, me and my scene partner on one side and the audience on the other. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing that every time I've acted ever since. Yeah, I literally imagine like a brick wall between me and the audience, and it works.
Really?
Yeah.
That is interesting. I'm trying to remember my first acting class. And everybody knows me now as like stone cold. Like nothing bothers me, nothing makes me nervous. But my first classes, I was definitely nervous.
Really?
Definitely nervous. Yeah, I was like, I think it's obviously an ego thing, right? Like you want people to respect your work.
Right.
And to think that you're good as an actor.
Right, yeah.
But you end up kind of sabotaging yourself because you're overthinking.
You shoot yourself in the foot. Yeah.
And I think overthinking is one of the biggest problems for any actor, but definitely a new actor, is being in their head. How do I want the audience to perceive what I'm doing? Mm-hmm. Instead of, I'm just going to be this person or be in this situation and like receive it, Yeah. And then act out of that honestly. Yeah,
I've always thought you need to overthink to get the character, but then when you're playing the character, you got to shut your brain off. You got to do all the work and then trust yourself and fall back onto that work when it's actually time to roll the camera.
Okay, so for anybody that doesn't know and is not an actor, what do you mean by doing the work?
I mean, I break down my characters' personalities. I figure out what kind of music they like, what kind of media they like to consume. I think about their family life, all the things that make you and me, you and me. What, differentiates me from you, what brought us up to the point that we are in the present day. Right. And I build up just something completely different for every character I play.
Really?
Yeah.
So you do that even if it's like a smaller role, do you kind of just wing it or do you really get in depth with it?
It depends on what the script calls for. If you're just doing a small role, it's almost more respectful in my mind to not do as much work because if you're doing a small role, it doesn't require to dive so deep into the personality. Yeah. Like if you're just playing a barista, just play a barista.
Yeah. Let it go, people.
Right.
Serving coffee.
Right. Or else the audience is going to think that you're going to return or play some big part in the plot. And it's not the place for it.
Yeah. Kelly, when we had Kelly on, she mentioned if you're a smaller role, you're trying to serve like the main role and make them and their part more interesting, more important, whatever. You're just kind of filling in. And it's not to say like a barista can't be an interesting part of the movie, but it's not the focus. Yeah. The movie's not about the coffee.
It's about respecting the role.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. No, it's a really good point. So I think one of the biggest things that, because I've watched you basically your whole career.
Yeah.
I've like known you from almost day one, not day one. I don't think I was there for that.
Pretty much.
But pretty much, right? And then I think the first thing we did together was a showcase class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's something really unique that Atlanta Hollywood does, is give people an opportunity almost every quarter now to get in front of agents, but obviously you have to perform in front of a pretty big room, you know, anywhere from 40 to 80 people.
And it takes 8 weeks of prep work to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel like that is different than, you know, actually being on set, being in a commercial, being in a movie? How is it different doing like a showcase class versus being on camera?
Well, since the audience is in person and in seats in front of you, there's more theater aspects. Like I pay attention to where my body is facing more. I also have to focus on projecting my voice. I bring a lot of theater aspects to it, and I've never done theater, so the most I've learned about theater is through the showcase.
Yeah, yeah.
I make sure my body is facing the audience, all of the audience. So I have to have my actor brain a little bit more on, which sucks. But
so you feel like there's more to think about in theater versus just being on camera?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you like better?
I like being on camber better. I like film and TV, but I haven't done enough theater, and I would love to do more theater.
Yeah, it's fun. I did embarrassingly, I did a musical. Now, I think if I had a good teacher, I could sing, but I'm not a very good singer. My range is about this big. Yeah.
Same. I'm a terrible singer.
I can stay on key if it's like 3 keys, right? But I can't. My range is not big at all. So I did a musical. God knows why the guy cast me, because my character was supposed to be blonde hair, blue-eyed, and had to sing. I had none of those things. Yeah. And the guy was like, "I just love this kid. I want him to be in the movie. You know, I want him to be in the show." And I'm like, "Bro, I'll do it. You're paying me."
Right.
And it was fun. It was a good experience. And it was about, I think it was called They Call It Sauce, We Call It Gravy, was the name of it.
Wow.
And it was about like Sicilians and Italians.
Okay.
It's the most like Italian musical that's ever existed. And I had to sing a song to the girl that I love, right? It was me and her were the main characters. And it was a big cast, but I think I had 2 songs. And the one song I just couldn't do. The one song is kind of like talking it out, almost like a Fred Astaire type thing, where he would kind of just talk it out, but really dance was like his main thing.
Nice.
And but as far as the song that required a lot of range, I had the idea that we could freeze almost like we're vignettes, and then the guy that wrote the song came out and sang it for me because I couldn't do it. I was like, we don't have the time for me to become like a world-class singer to do this. So we just ended up freeze framing, and then the guy that like wrote the song and actually wrote the whole musical came out and sang the song for me. And it was kind of, it kind of worked.
Like he was telling the story of you two?
Yeah, it was weird.
Weird.
It was weird. Yeah, so that was like the proof of concept show. Oh, and there was like investors and like people that were interested in producing musicals there. Yeah. And they were just checking it out. And they really liked it and everything. But at the end, I was like, dude, I can't do justice to this. I was like, the acting side, absolutely. I got that, in spades. But as far as, I don't want to ruin your musical because I can't sing, That's
really cool.
So he was, he respected that. And he was like, yeah, I think that's the right choice. And we parted ways, but I got to do a musical.
Yeah.
So I did get to do some stage, but camera's definitely where my heart is at.
That's really interesting, because I feel like so many people would just go with a role just for the pay and just to have a role, and then absolutely bomb it.
Yeah. I feel like my reputation's on the line too,
Yeah.
And his reputation's on the line.
Right.
I want to respect that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. He's a great guy. Really, really good guy. All right, so tell me a little bit. We kind of jumped forward a little bit. I'd love to just know what initially even inspired you to act.
A few different things. I remember what started sparking it was, when after you finish watching a movie that you really like and your favorite character kind of resonates with you.
Yes.
And you might not want to admit it to yourself, but you start acting like them.
Yes.
Yeah. that started happening to me, but it would go on for like days, and it probably got a little annoying to the people around me. But I started acting like the characters, like my favorite characters. And
okay, I gotta know who now. Who are you acting like?
Katniss Everdeen.
Ah, ooh, that's a good one for you though.
Yeah.
I feel like you totally fit that genre.
Right, and that was like one of the first movies that it was the first movie series that I really fell in love with, and I really loved the characters, and yeah, and I started in my kitchen. I started like acting out this really dramatic scene that she did. It was probably really embarrassing, and I was like 11, probably. No one was around, but it was just like myself and this like voiceover monologue she did.
Wow.
And I've never said that before, but I think that's what sparked it. And I realized that's what sparked it, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And I wanted to do what I did in my kitchen in front of a camera and an audience.
I love that you just said that.
Me too.
Seriously, because so you never told anybody that?
No.
This is a Make Movies Great Again exclusive. Breaking news. Eden acts out things in her kitchen.
I used to.
Okay. That's now you just do it on camera.
Yeah.
Now we just make fools of ourselves on camera. That's great.
Exactly.
No, I love that you said that, because that is totally what I used to do when I was younger. Totally what I used to do. I would stand in my living room, watch something, and then do impersonations of it and act it out. And I remember and I'm not talking just as a young boy, because I did it as a kid. But even as, 16, 17, 18, I would do these impersonations. And I remember sitting with my dad and my stepmom, and my stepmom, Carol, would get to laughing, right? And she'd be like, "Man, you totally missed your calling." Wow. And she said that to me. I will never forget, because I was teaching martial arts at the time. And actually, this was probably into my 20s now. And still doing impersonations, not like I would as a little boy, but you know what I mean? Like walk around, do an accent. I do like 100 dialects. So I would do, like a dialect, do a little comedic thing, just goofing around in passing. And it was just part of my life, and I always wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
And I remember her laughing so hard and just being like, "Trav, you missed your calling." And I was teaching Taekwondo at the time, full time. I had my own school. And I will never forget it, because when she said that, I go, "You're right."
Wow.
Even though I had my own business, even though I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, you're right, I'm missing my calling. And that literally was enough spark for me to start genuinely pursuing acting. And I don't think she even knows it, but she was a huge catalyst to me having the guts to sell my business and move to New York and start acting.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so
so
cool.
I totally resonate with what you said. I love that you said that.
Yeah. And I still find myself like just taking on these characters like that, these characters that I like just in my day-to-day life. And it's what I'm made of. It's all I want to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the genuine excitement that you have for it. You remind me of a younger me, and I still have that excitement. It's just shifted.
Yeah.
Because so much in the business side of things now versus just the creative side. But you're already in the business side.
I am.
And you're, way ahead of where I was at your age. Like, what are the characters that you like to play?
Oh gosh, this is specific. I would love to play a young Amy Winehouse. Like I like characters that are going through the point in their life that happens before they figure out their calling. And I think that's because that's kind of where I am right now. Well, I've figured out my calling, but I haven't really broken into the industry yet. I haven't gotten to the point in my acting where I can totally let go yet, to where I'm completely happy with everything I do. And I really resonate with the movies where characters are singers and actors and performers and stuff, and they're on the journey to becoming completely happy with the performance that they put out. Does that make sense?
I think so.
That was a ramble. But.
No. It made sense.
Okay.
I don't know much about Amy Winehouse. She was a singer, yes?
Yes.
Okay. I know who you're talking about. So people are gonna flame me in the comments because I'm not an Amy Winehouse fan. I don't listen to a ton of music. I'm more of like a podcast guy.
Yeah.
I'm more of like a informational, versus, but I go in phases. I don't know if you're like that, where you'll go in like phases where it's like listen to music exclusively or I listen to podcasts. I'm like, I never have a middle ground. It's really weird. But anytime I've seen you act, in the showcase, on camera, just with me, like I can see that you like intense characters.
I do like intense characters, which is so interesting because I'm very much the opposite in my real life.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm exercising something.
Yeah. Well, some of the other actors that I've had on the show express the same thing. Yeah. They like playing things that are not them.
Right.
Right, but maybe somewhere inside them they have this fire and they want to let it out somehow.
Oh, for sure.
I think a lot of creatives are like that, right? Yeah. So that's really interesting. I've seen you do super intense, even subject matters, like really stuff that's hard to talk about, but the arts allow you to express that.
Right. Yeah. It definitely feels like I'm exercising something that's never come out in my real life before, except when I'm acting.
As an actor, one of the hardest things, and any actor watching this is probably going to resonate with it, is pulling tears, like getting yourself to cry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back on just how much I've seen of you. Have you gotten to a place where that's easy for you? Is it still difficult? Have you done it? Have you not done it? Like, what is that like for you? Do you even want to?
I mean, I've definitely gotten to that place in my Warner Lofton class.
Okay.
Never gotten there in front of you before, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
I think the biggest block I have with my acting is getting to that place emotionally where I can just get there, that I can feel it and it's so real and I start crying. I can always tell when actors are just like holding their eyes open and it starts to hurt and then they're
and then it waters a little bit.
I can always tell.
Yeah.
And I've done that before and I don't want to ever again.
Yeah.
Because it takes me out of it and it takes the audience out of it. It's not real at all.
There is there's actually a solution that you can just put in your eyes and it will make you tear up.
Yeah.
I've never used it. I think in one movie that I was in, The Trial of Everett Man, I cried real tears. But as a man, I don't have to worry about it as much because nobody really wants to see me cry. You know what I mean? Men are supposed to be a little bit more stoic, so it's not a big deal for me. But and I don't think it is for women either. I think it has to feel natural, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like whether real tears come or not. I think you can still be honest about the moment and still feel bad or still feel a certain way and not actually cry about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think it's so powerful in cinema when the stoic man cries.
Yeah. Yeah, I can think of a handful of scenes. Denzel, when he's getting whipped, I don't know, I remember the name of the movie, but he's getting whipped and he's angry and one tear. I'm like, dang, this guy.
I know what you're talking about.
So good.
Yes, I've never even seen the movie, but I know the scene because it's so good.
Yeah,
yes.
So it's such a powerful scene. And he's not like boo-hoo crying. He's like, this is unjust. Yeah. And it's making me emotional right now. But he's like, just one tear rolls down his face. I'm like, man, this guy is a freaking beast. He's on another level. Yeah. Even above people that have been in dozens of blockbusters. He's just an amazing actor. So, ideal role for you. It sounds like a hero's journey almost, right? Like people finding themselves. Yeah, people finding themselves. Yeah. I love those stories. What was it about Hunger Games that you connected with so much? I mean, what 11-year-old girl doesn't connect with Hunger Games? It's like the just the Katniss Everdeen character. The way she just overpowers the evil government. I mean, it's just cool. I can't tell you what resonated with me in particularly.
just that she was so powerful and so in touch with herself, and she didn't let any of the stupid things get in her way. That kind of like the whole love triangle thing, and that was promoted for the movie, even though that that kind of goes against what the actual movie was trying to convey, which is interesting. I don't know. It was she knew who she was.
Yeah, interesting. I will say this. I think she found out who she was.
Yeah.
And I think maybe you were doing the same thing.
Right.
Because for me, the characters that I resonated with the most growing up, same ages, right? Just different era, was like Rambo. John Rambo was this strong, stoic, tough, badass, but he had a past that he was like, he was really broken inside. And through a set of extraordinary circumstances, he had to overcome, not only an actual real force of police that were coming after him, but he had to overcome the fears and the trauma that he had from war, And I don't know why I resonated with that so deeply. It's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, I don't
There's
know.
just something in there that you see in that character that you're like, that's me. Somehow. I never went to Vietnam. I wasn't in the war. But somehow that's me, and it maybe it was the same thing. Like you just kind of saw yourself in there.
I can't describe it.
Yeah.
But I also can't describe myself, so there you go.
It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Life is a mystery. Tell me about your first on-set experience. What was that like?
My first on-set experience was an extra in a Mark Wahlberg movie. It was The Family Plan, which was the top movie on Apple TV for like a month, which was really cool for me.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see yourself in it?
I did,
Okay.
barely. It was the very last scene, which was also cool because it was. I felt like I kind of put a button on the film with that.
There you go.
I was not featured at all. I was very much in the background.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, it was so fun. Even though I was sitting there for 8 hours before I actually
got on
went
camera.
to the set. Yeah. But I still loved it. I mean, they gave us lunch, which is cool. I loved it. I was like, listening to the costume designer, talk about her plans for, how she was going to figure out the costumes. And then when I went on set, I heard the director talking to the DP about how they were going to move the camera up the set of bleachers. It was like a football field. And there were so many jobs. It was a very big budget film.
Yeah.
So many people, PAs were working around me, and I was listening to everybody's conversations, and it felt like one single organism. It was really cool.
So you used it as a learning experience more than just wanting to be on a camera.
Yeah.
Because you're barely on camera as an extra.
I didn't care about that. I wanted to be on set.
Absorb it, yeah.
Absorb it, yeah.
Yeah, that's like kind of a pro tip that I give newer people. I'm like, just find a big movie and apply to be background. And if they pay you nothing, don't worry about it. Just go for the experience.
Yeah.
And they'll feed you lunch, and you'll have a craft table, and you're gonna do a lot of waiting around. But that's what I did when I was in New York. I started auditioning a ton, and actually booked a couple things pretty quickly, just because of my stunt and martial arts background.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, I need to get on really big sets and just hear what's going on. What does it mean when someone says points, or when someone says striking, or when someone's, whatever, right? And there's 150 movie terms that the average person wouldn't know what they're talking about. But it's exactly what I did. I got on set and I just listened, watched, and I didn't even watch the stuff that I was in because I didn't care. I didn't like watch it back,
Right.
Some people would be like, hey dude, this movie's on and you're in the background. I'm like,
Really? So other people would pick you out?
Yeah. I'd be like,
Wow.
I don't want to be the background guy. I just wanted to be like listening. When I was on Escape at Dannemora, I purposefully turned my head away every time. You can't see me. I can see myself because I know where I was, but nobody can see me because I kept turning away from the camera on every time I'd see the camera coming, I'd be like, and look away because I wanted to be a principal, and I didn't want to be a background actor, right? But what I really wanted to do on Escape at Dannemora was meet Ben Stiller. And, you know, this was 8 years ago or something like that.
Right.
And so I was up in New York at the time, and the opportunity came up. They were doing an open casting call in a theater in Dannemora, New York, which is a very small town. It's where these two prisoners escaped. It's a good show, actually. I've been told. I never even saw it. But they're like, Ben Stiller's directing. It's going to be huge. He's got like $200 million budget. I'm like, I want to be on this set because I want to shake hands with Ben Stiller. Mm-hmm. So I had like my mission parameters. I'm like, I'm going to go meet Ben Stiller regardless of what anybody says. Background actors don't get to meet major directors and actors and stars, but I'm going to, right? So I go to the open call, and at this time I'd been acting for a while, and I was head and shoulders above anybody in upstate New York.
Yeah.
There's no talent up there. New York City has talent, but nobody really does anything in upstate New York. So I go up there, I audition, and literally the woman, when I did my audition, all the people are going in there, they're reading off the paper like, hi, I'm,
oh, no.
you know, and they're like, it's terrible, right? I go in there and I just crush it. And she was like, oh, you're really an actor, huh? I go, yes, I am. And she was like, okay. Why'd you come to this call? And I was like, oh, that's interesting that she even asked me. I said, because I want to meet Ben Stiller. And she was like, okay. And marked something down on my page. So anyway, long story short, weeks go by. Hear nothing, of course, because that's typical. And all of a sudden I get a notice. They're like, hey, we want to use you as a police officer. I said, okay, cool. I'll be background. I don't care. I just want to be on set. Mm-hmm. I ended up spending almost 3 weeks up there. And week 2, they had like big, I think it was a firehouse. They emptied out this firehouse. They had a couple bays that they would just put lunch tables, because there was like mega cast and crew. Like the cast would come in, background actors. On the days that I was there, we had up to like 150 background actors. And then we had, 5 or 6 primary cast, Benicio del Toro, some of these people. And then you had your Ben Stiller and his entourage, and then you'd have the rest of your crew. There's probably 100 crew. I mean, it was massive. Budget was massive on it. And second week, I've been turning my head every time, talking with the other people, just making friends, and everybody keeps coming back because we're doing these same sequence of scenes over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so it's probably like day 7 or 8 for me, and I think I was on there like 18 days total. So it starts raining, and we're in cop cars, and we're doing this scene where we tear up to the side of the road. And Benicio del Toro was one of the escaped prisoners, and the cops come out, and we're all pointing guns at him, right? So I got a fake gun and badge and decked out. And we tear up in these cop cars, and then it starts raining, and we're like, okay, continuity's blown, so we gotta take a break the second half of the day. So we all just jump back in the cop car, and they're like, all right, everybody's going to lunch. So all the extras go to lunch except for me and 3 guys. Oh. And we're all stuck in the cop car, and we didn't realize we were just hanging out. By that time, we're friends. We've been there for like 5-6 days together. We're laughing, joking.
Yeah.
And we end up going to lunch like an hour late. And this is when Ben would come in with his entourage and eat after everybody else, and they would have like a special meal for him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever he wanted. And at this point, I was watching him on set a lot, obviously. Wanted to learn, wanted to see what he was really like. Sure. Kind of just judge his character and like, hey, who is this guy really? Yeah. And what makes him so talented, what makes him tick. And anyway, I sitting there under the pavilion with these 3 guys, and we're kind of outside in these tents, and then the inside's all cleared out now. All the background are back on set, and Ben was just going to go grab a quick bite to eat before he went back to set. And as it was kind of drying up, and I see his black SUV pull up, and it's just me and 3 guys, and that's it, and like 1 PA. Yeah. And I'm like, here it is.
This is your chance.
It's time. So he pulls up, and it was like divine appointment. He pulls up, gets out. It's just him and one other person, and they're in the back of this like blacked out SUV. and they start walking towards the lunch area, and I go, watch this, guys. You know, there's like 3 other guys there, and they're a bunch of country bumpkins. You know, super nice people, but never been on a film set, don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
They just know that's Ben Stiller, and I'm not allowed to talk to him, you know. But I get up, and I'm like, hey, Ben. And he turns around, he's like, hey, what's up? And I go, hey, I'm Travis Conover, you know, good to meet you. And I knew I had to say something that was going to be interesting for him, or it would be a massive waste of time. So I go, hey, I just really want to let you know that I've been watching you very closely and how you interact with background talent, local police force, your actors that are principal. I said, I just really admire the way that you treat people.
Wow.
And he was like literally jaw on the ground. And he goes, thank you so much. How are you doing? And we just had this like 30-minute conversation. We just started talking. He took my number down. He's like, I'm going to give this to my assistant. You know, we're going to get you on the camera. I'm like, cool. You know, and I didn't end up being a star in that movie or anything like that, but it was a cool experience, and he was a great guy.
Yeah, that is super cool.
Yeah. So that's why I tell people, go be background if you're new and you just want to meet people and all that. You know, it's a good learning experience.
Yeah, I agree. That's really cool. My agent advised not to do like repeated background work after background work, because you'll start getting like put into the background work box.
Totally.
Yeah.
So obviously, good set experience. Got to see Mark Wahlberg work.
Yeah.
Who was directing that? Do you know?
I don't know who's directing it. I wish I did.
We could look it up, right?
We could.
But obviously, you've moved more recently into production yourself.
Yeah, and I never expected to, but I love it.
Really?
Yes.
So tell me what you like doing and how it's kind of a different experience from just acting.
Watching actors is so different to me from acting, but it gives me a better acting result. I love watching the actors. You know, I'm on the Video Village, I'm the script supervisor, you know, and you know, just watching the single organism that I call the set life, just work around me is so cool, while I also get to see how all that affects the actors, or how it all works together to make a movie and to make a shot. Everything that I didn't think about as an actor before I started working on set.
Yeah, what do you think is the most surprising thing to you from like what you'd view at home as just someone consuming it versus someone creating it? Like, what was the biggest surprise for you where you're like, oh my God, I didn't know that was happening?
How much time it takes for lighting.
Yeah.
Lighting is the biggest thing I had no clue about. I literally just thought they set up the camera, set up the boom mic, put like one light up, and then they were done. Then you were ready to shoot.
Yeah. How do you view movies now differently than you did before you knew how to light, knew how to assistant direct, knew how to...
Yeah, I see all the, you know, practical lights in the background that are practical lights, but they're, you know, the studio lights. I see all those little things. I think about what the production crew looks like behind the camera, where everybody is stationed in relation to where the lights are.
Yeah.
And I think about what the set would look like if you just walked in and saw everything. I can't just look it.
Can you tell if it's a real location versus a set now?
I can.
Yeah.
I can. That's so weird.
Isn't that one of the biggest like ahas? Like, oh my God, they're not actually outside; they're in a soundstage. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's made me enjoy movies so much more. You know, some people can think of it as an interference, and you don't get the full movie experience. And I still can. I still forget about all the behind the camera stuff, but it's made me enjoy movies so much more, you know, knowing about all the variables that go into making just one single frame.
Instant Family, was that the one you were on?
Family Plan.
Family Plan.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all, I'm not ignoring Eden. I'm the Family Plan, okay.
He's ignoring me.
2020. Let's see who directed it.
It's not showing up?
Yeah. Am I just being weird?
Are you on the right movie? Yeah, that's the one.
Here, you look.
Oh, look.
I can't find it. I am technology impaired tonight. Yeah. I've noticed too, or let me just say it this way. I've seen you, yeah, I don't know why I can't. Normally IMDb immediately says to the directors. That is so weird. Who directed The Family Plan?
According to Wikipedia, The Family Plan is a 2023 American action comedy film directed by Simon Selin Jones and written by David Coggeshall.
Okay.
Someone I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder sometimes how, and I'm not saying he shouldn't have, but I wonder how people get their directing jobs. Like, especially, I've never heard of that guy. He maybe directed some incredible stuff, but I wouldn't just know his name. You know? So I just wonder how people get that job. Like the newest movie that really disappointed me, and I've already said this publicly, so it's probably not a shock to my viewers, but the movie The Return. It's like the last. It's like the last portion of the Odyssey.
Oh,
where Odysseus comes back and the suitors are trying to marry his wife because they all think he's dead. Okay. Like, put it this way, it should have had a different director.
Okay.
And I'm like, how did this guy get the money to hire Ralph Fiennes and go, to Italy and shoot this in this incredible location at this castle and all that? I'm like, where did he get the money for this? Like, who paid for this guy to go do that? Because the movie was brutal. And sometimes new directors are amazing and they crush it.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're like, how in the world did you convince people to give you $10 million?
I have no idea. I think that happens so often in movies, and I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of which, I know we've talked about it a little bit. Like, what is your take on what's happening to the industry? Like, what has happened that has brought us to where we're at?
We've lost the plot, absolutely. No pun intended. Well, pun intended a little bit, but we've absolutely lost the plot. Movies, I think the studios used to be owned by people who were in it for the art and who had art to share with the world that they wanted the world to see. They had creative ingenuity, and now it's a business, which it has to be. But it's only a business now. And I think that's the big difference. And
for the people at the top.
For the people at the top. Yeah. The indie movies and film companies I love because they haven't lost the plot. They're in it for the art. But the problem is they can't get the funding to make the big budget things. Like A24 is doing that really well.
Yeah.
They're almost like making student film plots, but they have the resources, and I think that's why they're so successful. Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, the golden era is like very late 80s into 90s, early 2000s. So there's like a 15 to 16 year of like amazing movies coming out. And then 2005, 2010 is where things started to lose a lot of steam. And then after that was just, it's gotten worse and worse.
Garbage stuff consistently coming out to the point where people are expecting it. And they're not going to the theaters because they're expecting the garbage. And they're waiting for it to come out on streaming so that they don't have to spend the $25 to be disappointed because they know they will be.
Wow. That's actually a really good point. It's like people are conditioned now to expect movies to be predictable, crappy, boring.
Yeah. I mean, I go into the theater and there's 3 people there.
Yeah.
It's insane, and it's so sad.
It's very sad. Because I know, man, as a young actor, I was like, this is the ultimate medium of filmmaking, is being in the theater.
Yeah, and I believe it is.
Being on the big screen.
Yeah.
And it still is, in my opinion.
Me too, yeah.
And it's very sad to see it start to disappear. Yeah. So what are some of your favorite flicks? Like, what do you really resonate with?
I really like The Passion of Joan of Arc, which I think that was 1929, I want to say. It was very, very, very old.
So black and white.
Oh, yes. Black and white, silent.
Silent?
Yes. Yeah, I love it. it's all shot in tight frames. I think there's literally like 2 shots that aren't like close-ups.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that so much because it strips the movie down to the bare bones and gives the audience only the emotion. There's zero, you can see zero in the background except for like towards the very end in like 2 shots.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the 10 Commandments?
Mm-mm.
Okay. That movie was like, it broke massive box office records. It's like 4 hours.
Wow.
It's an epic.
Nice.
I mean, it's literally an epic. But it has an intermission built into it, which I think is hilarious. Yeah, like 2 hours in, they're like, go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because this movie is really long.
Because you need to actually enjoy it.
Yeah. So they actually built an intermission. And this is obviously when live shows were far more popular.
Yeah.
Let's go to theater, that kind of thing. So it was like, they're like, intermission was just normal.
Yeah.
But they built it into the movie. And ironically, it's shot a lot like a play. It's all wide. There's a couple
Sure.
tight shots.
Yeah, sure.
But I would say it's 85% 35 mil or maybe even like a 28 mil. And it's just wide. You're seeing the whole room, and they step up and they face the camera. They like, it's like a play.
Yeah.
You're like watching a play, but that movie, they did some really cool stuff. They had like green screen effects, like some of the first ever.
Wow.
Which is really, really cool. And it was pretty freaking well done. The fact that they were able to plate that. And I don't know if you know, back in the day, when they wanted to create like a background, they would paint it. They would paint the background and put it on glass.
Yeah.
In front of the scene itself. And then the people would be like down here, and then the camera would be looking at this piece of glass, and they'd be behind it. I mean, it's so cool.
I love the practical effects of old movies.
Yes. It makes you like, we kind of do that in modern filmmaking. We call it compositing now.
Right.
But it's digitally, it's almost the same idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, you take 2 shots that are similar focal length, all that, and then you line them up almost like a matte painting. Like they were compositing before digital compositing.
Just in real life. That's so cool.
Yeah, super, super cool.
I've never thought of that before, but yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, layering images, right? Basically the same thing. So that answer kind of blew me away. A 1928 film, silent black and white film. I'll check it out. It's really, really interesting. Anything more modern that really connects with you? Like, what are you digging right now?
Right now, oh gosh, I wish I had my letterbox on me. Interstellar comes to mind. It's the first movie that showed me I could love cinema. And,
really?
Yeah.
What about that movie? Because truthfully, to me, everyone's gonna hate me. I think it's one of the most overrated films.
Really?
Yeah, I would put it on my top 10 most overrated films.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what about it what is it that you really loved about it?
It took such an insane idea that is just, it's close to reality, but it's really not. There was a lot of fantasy and sci-fi elements to it, with the portals, but it was so grounded, and it got me to an emotional state that it just didn't leave me for weeks. I mean, it showed me that I could love cinema. I don't know, it was fantasy, but it was so grounded. The acting was wonderful, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I don't know, I love
See,
everything.
I would agree. I know this is a weird way to look at this. I agree with you completely. I think cinematography was incredible. Acting, McConaughey freaking slapped it.
Yes.
I mean, that was so good. He's so good. Score, great. Visuals, great. I mean, like, it is, as a piece of artwork, it's so good. But as a movie, I hated it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how to explain this. And a lot of people have asked me, you know, well, you must love Interstellar. You're a filmmaker. I'm like, I get it. I know why people like it, but I just could not get it. I couldn't connect with it.
That's interesting.
When I actually watched it, I was like, I'm bored. If I pull out I know it's a good movie or not if I don't pull out my cell phone. Mm-hmm. I was looking at my cell phone through a lot of it. And people may go, well, that's why you didn't like it. You missed all. I think I got all the story beats. It's a slow burn.
Yeah.
It's really slow. And I just don't like slow burns.
I just didn't see it as a slow burn, but it's been so long since I watched it.
Yeah.
But you know, I read the script because that always changes my perspective on a film, and I got that same vibe. So I don't know. I read the script and it felt like it shouldn't have worked as a movie.
Amazing.
Which is really weird. I can't explain that. It felt like the pages just, it didn't match up, but on screen it felt perfect.
Translated well. Yeah.
Yeah, it translated very well.
Yeah, and I'm not taking away from Christopher Nolan. He's obviously a genius.
Yeah.
He makes some of the best movies ever. I mean, the Batman trilogy for a while, I was like, this is peak. This is like freaking peak trilogy. It's like that, Lord of the Rings. What else? Like, what other trilogy is that, you know, well put together? So I love Christopher Nolan. And you know what I thought was, for me, was really great was Inception.
Ooh.
Which was Chris Nolan. Did you see Inception?
I did. I was very tired while I watched it, and I think I fell asleep, which is not like a good.
Yeah. You know, that might be a reason that I don't like Interstellar. It might have been the night. You know what I mean? It could have been a bad week. It could have been who I was watching it with. You know, there's a million reasons why you don't connect with something.
Yeah.
I could have just been burnt out. You know.
Sure.
I got 12 kids, for goodness sake. So sometimes you're tired, right?
Every time you say that, I get shocked.
Yeah.
It never gets
and
old.
You've already known it. But yeah, I mean, something about it did not click. Something about it did not click. And, you know, I think to give it a fair shake, just because so many people are urging me to watch it again, maybe I'll watch it again, but right now I don't get it.
I can understand that.
And I heard Oppenheimer was kind of the same.
Really?
It was like mixed. Some people were like, eh. Some people were like, it's the best movie ever.
I thought of it as kind of a slow burn too, but I loved it.
Yeah,
anyway.
Christopher Nolan is so smart, it's almost a detriment.
Really?
Because the average person can't keep up with his intellect. Did you see Tenet? Watch
No.
Tenet.
Okay.
Your brain will blow out the back of your head.
Really? Okay.
Because it's so
on my
difficult
watch
to
list.
understand.
Okay.
And look, I get high level stuff. I understood Tenet completely. But when I talk to most people, they go, I didn't really like it because I didn't really understand what was going on. So like, you're very intelligent and you get stuff like that, but a lot of people actually didn't like Tenet because he was so smart that it didn't resonate with most people.
Interesting. I'm gonna watch Tenet now. Same thing I think happened with Donnie Darko.
That's a crazy movie too.
It's a crazy movie.
Yeah.
I understood it at the end, but like barely.
Yeah.
I barely got by.
When did you watch it?
I watched it like 2 months ago.
Okay, so very recently.
Very recently, yeah.
So I watched it. I watched it when I was actually probably right around your age, and I kind of got it, but I did not enjoy it. Again, could have been a circumstance thing. I was with a girlfriend that we were going through some stuff, you know, and it was you just ruined this movie for me because I'm mad at you or whatever, you know, but this was a million years ago. So I do think that does play into it, like
absolutely
what you're feeling when you watch the movie, you know. Sorry. Did you see the new Airplane? Oh, what's that movie? It's on Netflix. Everybody's fired up about it. Carry On.
No, but I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah, I watched it. It's another one where people are like raving about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a 5 or 6 out of 10. It's not that great. But I think it's to your point. People expect garbage.
Right.
And when they get something decent, they're like, praise God.
It's the best movie ever. I know.
I haven't seen a good movie in years.
It's so sad.
It is really sad.
I definitely see that. Yeah, like the things that are becoming popular on social media and then they disappear in like 2 weeks, but the rave is just so strong and it makes me want to watch it. And I watch the movie and then I get very disappointed.
Yeah, it's really not very good. Yeah. I know you talked to me about Nosferatu recently.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I did see it.
What were your thoughts on that?
I really liked how they adapted the story. I didn't see the original, but I've seen lots of clips from it. It felt like there was some elements that were just porn, really.
Oh, really?
Yes, and it was unnecessary.
Like actual nudity and stuff?
No, not actual nudity, but a little bit. Like unnecessary sex that wasn't in, I don't think was in the original.
Yeah.
I liked it. I think there was a lot of just porn.
Really?
Yeah.
That's actually one of the things that made me mad about The Return, the movie I was talking about with Odysseus.
Yeah.
There was like 3 scenes with sex that were completely unnecessary. I'm like,
so many movies nowadays. So many movies have that problem.
Yeah, it doesn't drive the story forward.
I think it has to do with the short attention spans of our generation. I think it has a lot to do with that.
There was definitely an era that thankfully you mostly missed, but it was like people were just ham-fisting nudity in just because they were like, well, there's a section of our audience that's going to really like that. Yeah, but the other section, that people that don't want to see that are grossed out by your movie now, dude.
Yeah.
But to your point, I totally agree. I think shoving it in there just to have it is a big mistake.
It's the attention span issue.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah. No, it is. And why do you think people have such small attention spans right now?
Undoubtedly, just the rise of technology.
Yeah.
And I mean, COVID got us very comfortable with being on devices and watching movies on our phones and, you know, not going to the movie theaters, and which is understandable. People wanted to quarantine, but then we never got out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have a really good point. I think a lot of people became reclused, you know. They just shut themselves in their room, turn on the TV. I think most people are actually more comfortable, and this makes me sad because obviously we're filmmakers. More people are more comfortable watching it on their home television than they would rather go to a theater and, you know, have a social experience with a group of friends or something like that. They'd rather just like, hey, let's come watch Netflix on the couch.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of sucks.
I definitely became more reclused after COVID. I still would rather go to the theater any day, but yeah.
I mean, there's definitely people that love the cinema. I think there's unfortunately, I think it's just a shrinking sector. But I think, you know, the point you brought up is really good. I think most people are expecting it to be bad now. And they're like, I'd rather just not pay for it and watch it on Netflix.
I find myself doing that all the time.
Yeah. I'll wait till it comes out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Man. That's so sad. And I think you're totally right. I think the expectation, the bar is like really low right now.
Yeah, the bar is on the floor.
Yeah. So what do you normally go to see in theaters? Like what genre of movie is your go-to?
Like anything weird. I really like just weird movies that that really confuse you.
Well, you referenced Donnie Darko, so
I did.
So it's obvious that you like weird movies.
Yes. I love watching movies with my dad. He's super into cinema, of course, and anything weird. Like I like the weird movies, the A24 movies.
Yeah.
I'm watching Midsommar right now. Super weird. Love it.
Did you see the trailer for Death of a Unicorn?
Yes.
I think we should just get the team together and just go.
Let's do it.
I think it's going to be really good.
Let's absolutely do it. Yes, I would love to see that movie. That's
super
so
fun.
cool. I love that A24 is using all the liberties that they're allowed to take to create like the weirdest stuff.
Yeah.
And it just keeps giving them more audience.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, where do you see the future of Hollywood going? Obviously, we've been going through a very rough patch.
Yeah.
And you're invested. You're an actor. You're a great actor. And you're becoming, you know, great behind the camera too. Like, where do you think things are heading?
I think it needs a change. I think it's heading to a dumpster fire, but we need people like us to make a switch, and I think that we will.
Yeah.
And I think it's heading in a good direction, actually. But it's people like us that need to make a change.
Okay.
And get the art back into cinema, not the business side, although it needs to be done. But
yeah. So what kind of changes do you think could turn things in the right direction?
Smaller production teams, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Writers that are way more free. I think we need a lot more freedom in the writers. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you say that, you mean there needs to be a stronger balance between creativity, like new ideas, and then also
the business side.
Making sure that it makes sense too.
Yeah, the balance is thrown off right now.
It is. So you think the balance, just from what you're saying, you think the balance is more corporate right now?
Absolutely.
Versus creative?
Absolutely.
And we need to swing back the other direction a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I totally agree with that. I think storytelling has lost a lot of its charm, a lot of its identity. I don't know. I don't know if these stories are being written by AI. But I was listening to a company the other day, and I was talking to somebody the other day. I won't say who it was, but they said they would write a story, like write the idea for a story, or even write the full script, run the script through an AI program, and it would tell them the probability of that script making money.
Oh my God. What?
Where's the art in that?
Exactly.
So what they did was literally they would say the AI program that they built, obviously you don't just run through any AI. You have to build an AI program for that. It's not like ChatGPT has all that stuff built in.
No.
So they spent the money and the time to build an AI program that tells them, will this song be a hit? Will this movie make money for our studio? But I think they're underestimating humans. We love new, exciting. What's next? What's fresh? I don't want to see Captain America 47. I don't want to see the return of Iron Man after he clearly died in the last movie.
All the remakes. Oh my God.
It's embarrassing. What was it? There's a movie next year coming out, which is which is the sequel to a remake of a remake. I was like, this is insane. Like, they have no creativity. Oh, you know what it is? Freaky Friday.
Stop. There's so many Freaky Friday movies.
There's a Freaky Friday 2 coming out. I'm like, this is the 4th one.
This is like the 8th Freaky Friday 2.
Right. So how are you calling it Freaky Friday 2 if this is literally the sequel of a remake of a remake?
They're feeding off of nostalgia for the audiences. It's like they can't make something new. They're just draining the nostalgia and shoving it back in our faces.
I guarantee you that movie is not going to make money.
Nobody asked for it. Nobody's going to watch it.
Nobody asked for it. Nobody wants to see Freaky Friday 17. Because who knows how many there really are. But it's been done. They did a female version, they did a male version, they did another female version, now they're doing a second one. Like, dude, let it go. It's insane. But I think that's the problem, is people are expecting crap.
Yeah.
And they're pulling on people's nostalgia, strings. Like, hey, do you remember how great this first movie was when we made it 15, 20 years ago? Well, yeah, the person was excited to see it then because it was new. It's not new anymore.
But if you just make something new and somebody likes it, then there
Right.
you go.
So Carly, I think she even said it on the podcast. Somebody was like, hey, I wrote a book, publisher loved it, but they wanted 8 more. He's like, the main character dies, man. I'm not writing 5 more of these things, 6 more of these things. Not gonna do it. And I'm like, well, we really love it. We want it to be a series. He's like, no. I'm like, that's the kind of people we need that will just say no.
Exactly.
The story's great on its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, so my favorite movie of all time, The Count of Monte Cristo, 2001, Jim Caviezel, it's a revenge masterpiece, but it was written to its point, I think 1700s, maybe early 1800s by Alexander Dumas. And it was adapted a long, long time ago, 20s, into a movie. And then they made it in 2001. Killed it. Literally one of the most incredible movies ever made. And I just saw that they just made another one.
What?
It's about to come out.
They don't need it.
I'm so annoyed.
Like, the only Freaky Friday I needed was the one with Lindsay Lohan. I loved that one.
And that was the remake.
All I need. Yeah, the remake.
Yeah.
I think that was a good remake.
Yes. Well, the first Freaky Friday was what, 1973 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was a long time and very much outdated. But again, we don't need to keep doing it. We don't need to keep doing it. And we definitely don't need another Count of Monte Cristo. It cannot be better than the last one. It can't. That movie is literally perfect. It's just frustrating.
It is. Yeah.
All right. So you said you think we're actually in a good place because people are starting to see it? Like, what do you think is good about where we're at?
I think it's good that people are noticing that it's bad, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
You know, I see comments online all the time that there needs to be a change. They don't know what it is yet. I think you know what it is.
Yeah.
And I think we're headed in that direction. And I think that's a huge positive.
Yeah. So what do you think, or let me ask you, what would you love to see happen next for you and for the industry?
I would love to make this movie that's coming up in the winter. And I would love people to notice how we did it with a skeleton crew. Mm-hmm. I would love people to look at the credits and see, you know, who made it and see the small amount of people that it took to make it, and I want them to see it as a good product.
Yeah.
And I want them to realize that we don't need $500 billion budgets
mm-hmm.
and everybody on planet Earth on a set
mm-hmm.
to make a good movie.
Yeah.
And I think they will.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your involvement in the movie and the character that you're playing.
So, Heidi Morgan, the kind of main character, I don't know.
She's definitely one of the main characters.
One of the main characters.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think she kind of keeps the family together, and she's a motivation for the family because she's so cute, and she's
mm-hmm.
she's like 15, right? 16 now.
I think she's 15 in the movie.
She's 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she lost both her parents,
mm-hmm.
so everybody kind of takes care of her. So it's like it takes a village kind of thing since she lost her parents, and
yeah.
it keeps everybody together. Everybody becomes her parents, and in turn they all become friends, and it's cute. It's a cute story.
So in the way that we're making this movie, which has never really been done on this level before,
right?
You're going to be working behind the camera, and
yes.
you're going to be one of the main stars of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Does that intimidate you? How do you feel about it after we've done the training that we've done?
It doesn't intimidate me anymore. It used to be a huge fear for me, but since we're such a tight-knit crew and we're all so close, it's really not intimidating at all. I mean, if there was like 2,000 people on set, I'd be super intimidated. But it's like we're a little family, and I love it. I'm not intimidated anymore. You've been a great teacher, and I feel accomplished, in what I've done. I feel like I'm ready to take on that role, behind the camera.
Yeah, I think when people see what we're doing, and when people see the quality that we can produce,
right,
in the way that we're doing it, people are not going to say, "Oh, this is good for the budget." They're going to say, "This is freaking good."
Yep.
And then they're going to see, "Oh my God, there was 10 filmmakers that made this thing, and their budget was, 100 times smaller than some of these blockbusters."
Yeah.
I think it's going to keep up with them. Story-wise, it's going to just blow these things out of the water. A lot of the films that we're seeing that have $150 million budgets blow it out of the water. And I think our ability to tell the story is just as high quality as some of these major actors and directors.
I agree. I think people don't realize that you don't need those budgets to make the same product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I think it's going to surprise everybody. I think everybody's going to be blown away, especially when they see the end of the movie and there's 25 credits as opposed to 425.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people are going to expect a huge crew, and it's just going to like hit them in the face. No.
Yeah.
It's like 10 people.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm
Me
really,
too.
really excited for it. But thanks again for hanging out and talking.
Thank you. It's fun.
I'm fired up. 2025 is going to be great. It's going to be great. And I think you have a very, very bright future ahead of you.
Oh. I think you have a bright future ahead of you too.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree. Well,
we have bright futures.
We're linked now. We're part of the same company. So.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we both definitely are going to make some great movies together.
Oh, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.